Our second presentation of the morning is by Shel, is it Raiden or Raiden? KF0UR, K4. And Shel has been doing this kind of portable operating for quite a long time. He has a really nice setup, and he is truly an expert on this subject, so we're really privileged to have him give this presentation. Turn over to you, Shel.
Thanks. Good morning.
Good morning.
How many people have already been on HF in their lives? Okay, good. How many of those portable, gone outside with it? All right, you guys can keep me honest. There's a million ways to do this. I've been an operator, ham operator, for 54 years, long time, so I started when I was 2. And it was around the 2000, the year 2000, I was on a trail in Waldo Canyon, and I came across this great little vista overlooking Colorado Springs. Wouldn't it be great to just sit down here and enjoy this view and the beautiful skies we have here and operate? And I didn't have any equipment at that time, and but that got me going. And so that's what got me started. So I've been doing this for about 18 years. Keep fine-tuning the station. So keep in mind today, I'm going to talk about portable HF operation. This is just one way to do it. There are 1,000 ways. Lots of different equipment. I'm going to show you what I like, but there's nothing critical here. There's lots of ways to do this. That's a picture I took in the Badlands up in South Dakota. All right, so there's portable HF, but I'm going to talk about QRP, low power, because equipment is smaller. Everything is a bit more transportable. You want to put it in a backpack or something easy to carry. So QRP, if you don't know, is low power, but not just low power. 25 watts is low power, but not low enough. QRP is 5 watts or less on CW or digital, 10 watts or less on sideband. And as I said, it's a lot less to tote around. If you have back issues, this is what you want. It helps a lot less to carry. And I find for myself, making contacts at 5 watts is more satisfying than making contacts at home at 100 watts or more. It's just really cool to me. All right, so you can take some really big rigs. You can take an FT9000 or an ICOM 7800, that's many thousands of dollars, and turn them down to 5 watts, and you'll be operating QRP, right? But you're not going to take that with you. That's not what we're talking about here. And you can have a really big antenna. That's a step IR, but that's kind of hard to fit in your car or your backpack. So that's not what we're talking about either. That's what we're talking about. That's up on Mount Herman, which is right across the highway here. That's my back. That's my hat. And you're up about 1,000 feet there above Monument, and that's what I'm talking about, operating portable HF. That's one of the things I like. Getting up there is just on a trail. It's nothing technical. I'm not a technical climber, but I can walk, and I can get on the trails and have a lot of fun. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to get to it later, but right there is my antenna. See the vertical right there? At the time I was using a solar panel, and leaning against this fallen log as my chair, and enjoying the view as much as I'm enjoying the QSOs. I kind of liken this to fishing. Sometimes it's just nice being out there on the lake, even if you don't catch a fish. It's just nice being out there. All right, and this is why we go portable. That's Dan K0UIF, who's also in Monument here. This is when we went up on Red Mountain, I think it is, or Iron Mountain, I get them confused, in Manitou Springs. And you can see Guard of the Gods. Whoops. You can see Guard of the Gods in the background there. And over there's Kansas. And that's Pete WK8S, also from Manitou Springs. And that's on Iron Mountain. There used to be a building up there. People, many decades ago, used to go up there for dancing, I'm told. There used to be a car railway or something, way to get up there. And this concrete was sitting on here is basically the foundation that was left. So we went up there. It's not a massive hike, and he's using his KX3 there, Telegraph KX3. So again, this is Kansas back that way, looking east.
What's in the rest of the? What's behind him there?
Behind him, the concrete on the ground there.
Oh, the big pole going up.
Oh, the pole. That's his antenna. So he's got a long telescope.
Carry that up there?
Yeah, it collapses down to 4 feet or so, and He uses it as a walking stick, and then he kind of just strapped it. He's just strapped it there to something. They had these rebars still sticking up out of here, so it's really convenient to strap to. So that was his version, and he had a wire. That was just a pole, and then the wire he had, the antenna was this thing going up here to the top about 30 feet. Pete changes equipment and antennas about every 20 minutes. Tries everything, which is great. I get to see what he's doing. Now, when you go portable HF and you're running 5 watts, you say, well, I'm not going to get out, it's only 5 watts. That's not true. This is part of my log. I have 5 watts QRPs all over the world. I've got probably 50, 60 countries without even trying. All states, all Canadian provinces.
Yeah. Is that through CW or voice?
This was both. More CW, but some voice. There was a time I was on 10-meter sideband, and this is Venezuela station. This gal down outside of Caracas that had this big pileup on her. A lot of people trying to talk to her. I think YLs have more of a draw than the guys on the air. And I was running 5 watts. I was on Mount Blodgett here, not too far. So I gave her a call, and she heard me. And I said I was QRP portable. And she stopped working this big pile. She said, tell me all about your setup. Because she was about to do something similar. She was going to go out portable. And I wound up sending her some information about my antennas and stuff. So it gets attention. Also, a lot of times when I'm out there and I say, well, I'm out here hiking, I'm on Mount Hermon, 9,000 feet with my little thingamajig here. And so many people say, oh, I always wanted to do that. And I said, and I am. So you can do it, you can do it.
Shel, do you mainly work 10 meter or do you?
No, I go all bands now. 10 meter is kind of fun when it's open these days. 10 is not as open as you like. All right, so, but you don't have to go climbing. Not everybody likes to take hikes. You can just go to a park and use a picnic table. In this case, my car is in the parking lot over there. Right, this is at the Florissant Fossil Beds, out 24 Florissant, Colorado. Pick a table underneath the trees there because this is summertime and it's a little hot. And you can see the massive station I have here. Here's my antenna, right there, my vertical. I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. And here's the components. And I'm going to talk more about all of this. But you don't have to go hiking if you don't want to. You can just get out, go to a picnic table, go to Fox Run Park, go to Florissant. It's a nice ride. Go anywhere you like. This is me operating at the Badlands. This is during the National Parks on the Air event, which is in 2016, the whole year. Everybody know about that? All right. It was the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service, and the idea was hams go out to all of the parks, over 400 of them around the world. They're some outside the continental U.S. and operate, and everybody else tries to contact as many parks as they can throughout the year. It's like an Easter egg hunt. So when you go out there, you are the hunted party. People want to contact you. And so in an hour or two, I made 153 QSOs. So you can see, and had these nice little covered picnic tables there at the top of this knoll. And you can see the massive station I have here. It's in the shadows a little bit, but there's my car, there's my wife, and I'm just sitting there. And mostly sideband. I did some CW and about 3/4 sideband, about 1/4 CW. But that's the whole station, and I'm getting all around the world. All right, and for the national parks on the air, I went to about 12 different parks, and some many times, like Florissant Fossil Beds. I wake up in the morning, I had just retired, so I had time on my hands, and I just go out there for a couple of hours, and I went out there about over 20 times. But I did, from May through December, 5,334 QSOs. And so here in Colorado, I went to all those places. Now, you don't have to have a National Parks on the Air event to do this. You can just go. It's really cool. And I have some more pictures here, and some of them were really interesting. That's in the Badlands. They had this little parking, well, I guess it's a parking area, but they had these wooden posts there to demark the end of the parking area from the fields, from the Badlands. And this buffalo there was scratching his belly, and there were a couple of them on that post, and he was about 10, 15 feet from me. I felt very safe because I was in my car. But anyway, it was interesting. Being born in New York City, we don't see too many buffaloes around. All right, so here's my typical setup. We're going to talk about this in detail. I've got a transceiver and accessories. I have a battery, microphone, keyboard, key. This happens to be set up at the Florence and Fossil Beds. I visited that picnic table so many times, it was almost mine. All right, so there are four main components when you're operating. Then this is actually at home or portable, so we're going to focus on the portable use of this. You have a rig, you have rigs, you got to have an antenna of some kind, you have to have a power plant, you got to have some kind of juice, and accessories to make your life more enjoyable. All right, so let's talk about the rig. I started with, back when I was talking about the Waldo Canyon experience, the first rig I bought was the Elecraft KX1. This is the whole rig. This is an HF rig, 4 watts. It's a transceiver, not just a transmitter. 3 bands, 20, 30, 40 meters. And after I bought this, they came out with an 80-meter option. Morse code only, CW, has an automatic antenna tuner built in. It has a CW keyer built in. Extremely capable. I really love this thing because it is so small and so capable and easy to use. Really, really nice, and doesn't weigh much, and I like the way Elecraft. This is my first Elecraft product. I really like the way they did this. So I got that. But then, a couple of years later, they came out with the KX3, which is this. Now this is bigger, right? This is something else I'll talk about in a second. But this is the KX3, and the KX3 is all bands 6 through 160 meters, up to 15 watts, all modes, CW, sideband, PSK, RIDI, all in here with one of the highest quality receivers you can buy in the market of any rig, including those big massive ones I showed you. Because this is software-defined rig. Software-defined rigs have excellent specifications. So when you go out with this, you have the world in your pocket. All bands, all modes with extremely high quality receiver. So you hear more. There are no compromises in this radio. And as you can see, by me holding it up like this, it's pretty lightweight. It's about 1.5 pounds or something like that. You can power it internally with batteries, or I prefer external. So that's my rig of choice these days. After they came out with the KX3, Elecraft came out with this KX2. So I'll hold it up, and you can see it's smaller. It does not include 6 or 160 meters. It's just 10 through 80. It goes up to 10 watts instead of 15, which is insignificant. But it's smaller, it's lighter, so if space and weight are of paramount importance, if you're backpacking, this might be a better choice. I like this one better because it has a bigger front panel with more buttons and knobs. This one's got a lot of buttons and knobs, but some of the things you might need, you may have to go into a menu to do it, like on a lot of rigs. This one, I never go into the menus. Use menus to set it up, but for operating, everything's on the front panel for me, which is, I really like that.
Is that one voice too, or is that CW only?
Oh, no, this is CW, sideband, PSK, really, same modes.
Same mode.
Same modes, just 2 less bands, the extreme bands, 6 and 160 are not there. And a few less watts, but very, very capable. So this came out a couple of years ago. This is a little bit older, but they have these 2 radios. This is the one I like. This is a friend's. A good friend. All right, so we have that. But out in the field, when I first started operating, I didn't have a way to log my QSOs. I was writing on paper. And then when I get home, I would type all that into my computer, into my log at home, so everything would be together. I thought that was pain. I'm a kind of high-tech guy. I said there's got to be a better way to do that. I also, when I'm out there, especially in contests, I want to be able to press a button to send an exchange instead of sending it by hand. These rigs allow you to work PSK and RIDI, but to send, you're sending CW, and it'll translate it to PSK and RIDI. But I've been doing CW for 50 years, but my timing isn't always perfect, and it would misinterpret my letters, and once it's gone. You can't backspace and say, no, that's not the letter I meant. So I had a little frustration with that. And controlling the rig was a nice thing. So I started, as I said, I'm a high-tech kind of guy. I've been in engineering for my whole life. I learned about microcontrollers by chance, and I said, that's interesting, what can I do with that? So that's what I did with that. I made a project at home, and I put it on an Elecraft reflector. So look what you can do with the radio, because the Elecraft radios have this great interface. You can do anything you want programmatically. And I got a lot of responses, and one guy said, you ought to make that into a product. That's a good idea. And I can help you do that. So he became my business partner, and we started QRP Works. And we started with a Ham Central terminal, which is not on the screen. It's now been discontinued because we've replaced it with other nice things like if I find the button here, the sidecar. The sidecar is this guy on the side here. See, sidecar, okay. And then we came out with a bigger version. Our original Ham Central terminal had a screen like on this key logo here, 4 lines. This is only got 2 lines. Somebody said, well, I really like the 4 lines, so we came out with Sidecar Plus, which is a bigger version. Same function, it's just a bigger screen. And then we came out with some other things, like Soulmate. This is a little, very lightweight solar charge controller. You can hook your solar panel to this. Everything is geared for portable operations, lightweight but rugged. The lamest thing we have, put together for the first time last night, and we'll be debuting them at Pacificon Hamfest in California next week, is stay tuned. This is a SWR meter and power meter, but the difference between this and others is that this has got audio. So when you're tuning your antenna over here, and your mag loop, for instance, I'm going to talk about that, and you want to tune it for the lowest SWR, and your SWR meter is over there by your rig, and you can't really see it. This will give you tones. You just tune it for the lowest frequency tone. And for blind hams, we were asked to put in an option where you get below 2 to 1 SWR and it beeps. So even if you're not knowing what the tones are, you hear that beep as you tune it down, and you know you're below 2 to 1. So this is brand new. You're the first to see it.
Where's Pacificon this year?
Pacificon's in San Ramon,
San
which is by Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area. We've never been there before. We decided to go, so I'll be there next week. Starts on Friday. Wish us luck.
Good luck.
We don't go to a whole lot of conventions because it's expensive to go to those things, but we thought we'd give it a try. And all right, so anyway, so Homebrew project eventually became a side business for us. He does all the hardware, the circuit board design, the cases, all the physical part of it. I do all the software. So if you like the way it looks, you can thank him. If you like the way it works, you can thank him. All right. All right, so the Sidecar Plus, what it does is, as I mentioned, you can, with the Elecraft rigs, you can send CW, PSK, and RIDI with the paddle. And as I said, I had a little problem with that. So the Sidecar Plus and the Sidecar allow you to send with a keyboard, including a wireless keyboard. And we have some really small ones and big, medium-sized ones. We resell a couple depending on what people like. So that's a big deal for me. And then you can can messages. You can store messages. So hi, my name is Tom. My QTH is Black Forest. And just hit a function key and send that out. And you can do that, and you can edit those in the field. If you want to make it a little different, you can do that very easily. One of the biggest features we have is a log. We have room for 1,000 QSOs in there. And then when you're finished with your expedition, wherever you happen to be, you can then export that log into your home PC and upload it to Logbook of the World or integrate it with your log at home. So I did this for Field Day last year. I went out with the Colorado QRP Club. We're out in Strasbourg, Colorado, up by I-70, 30 miles east of Denver. And so I operated that exact setup there with the Sidecar and the KX3, and I did 580 QSOs, QRP, on Field Day. I said 30 of those happened to be duplicates, so they didn't count. So 550 non-duplicate. When I got home, I just pressed a button and created a file, an ADIF file, which is a standard file of QSOs, which allows you to move them between logs and integrate them in. So that was a big thing. So you leave the paper at home. No more pen and paper when I'm out in the field. And because of the programming port, the serial port on the aircraft rigs, you can have it do anything you want. Change frequency, change bands, change modes, change ALC, heater speed, anything, power. And you can program that into one of the macros on here, 20 spaces, and so you can press one key, like F2, and have it send 6 commands to the rig and say, change the band, change the mode, change the power, change this, change that. And it does it. So it's really nice. I really like that. I had, when I went out to Florissant for the first time for the National Parks on the Air, and I had the first pileup on you. Pileup is a lot of people calling you at once, and you kind of have to sort it out. And since there's so many people waiting to talk to you, you want to go as quickly as possible, not make people wait as long as they might have otherwise. And so I had some things in the product that would slow you down, like I put something on the screen that says, okay, I just logged QSO number 49, thank you very much. And it would stay there for a second or two. Otherwise, wow, come on, I want to hurry up. I want to get to the next one. So I put in a de-expedition feature when I got home after that, since I'm a software designer, and just to make things much faster. So I could go over, I've gone over 230 QSOs an hour on some of those expeditions. So it's really cool. So you go really fast. You can work them as fast as you can hear them. All right, the antenna. Let's talk about the antenna. Adam, it's Adam, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He said one of his slides had a very excellent point in there that all antennas are compromised. There's space, and time, money, effort, and in addition to that, space, time, money, and effort. I mean, every antenna is a compromise. So when you go out portable, the same thing applies. So for me, I wanted something really simple. I want to be able to put it up really fast and take it down even faster, because a lot of times I'm operating in the afternoon and we get those summertime afternoon thunderstorms, and I'm ignoring the thunder in the distance until there's a clap of thunder that scares me more than I'd like to be scared. So tearing things down and getting off the mountain, excuse me, is of paramount importance to me. So that's why I said tearing down is more important than setting it up. So I developed a vertical, it was based on the Philips Salis AD5X design, but this is my 4th version mechanically of changing it. The overall antenna characteristics haven't changed from Phil's design, but the way it goes up and down, the way it's put together is my design, and after doing it 4 times. Jim's been out with me once, and he saw that.
I built a second one. I liked it so much, I'm going to try it as a phased array. So.
There you go. All right, so it's good for 6 through 40 meters, which is all the bands I use during the day, and rarely do I go on 40 in the middle of the day. So 6 through 20 is what I normally go on. It sets up in about 10 minutes, which is what I really like. I've gone out with some other friends who are putting up their antennas for 30, 40 minutes, stringing wires and trees and pulling this and that, and I'm already on the air, which I really, really like. It's 12 feet tall when it's extended, and it collapses down to a foot. So I didn't put it together, but I wanted to show you, for portableness, this is the entire antenna right here. Right. So in here is 2 telescoping pieces, and it's in the PVC to protect it so it doesn't get dinged up, because you know if these telescoping things get banged, they're not telescoping anymore. So you got a heavy duty version. This is 6 foot. This comes from Buddy Pole. They sell these separately, and this is the old Radio Shack. The other people sell them too, just 6 foot lightweight extension. And there's that, and then there's 99 cents. This case is on sale at Staples for 99 cents. This is everything. I've got a coil. I've got 15 feet of LMR 100A coax, which is high loss at HF, but only have 15 feet, and the frequencies I'm at, it's really not a big deal. I've got a bunch of radials, also known as pieces of wire. And I've got a coil in here. Nothing, and I've got a little PVCT Home Depot version. And so everything fits in here, and That's my whole antenna system. All those thousands of QSOs I made, almost every single one of them was on this. I like the size. Easy fits in the backpack. The whole thing's under 2 pounds.
That's cool.
Is the coil from Buddy Pole?
I'm sorry?
Where's the coil from?
The coil I recently bought from Nebraska Supply. I'm not sure if they still sell them, but I see them at Hamfest, and every time I see one, I buy them. They usually come about this long, and I cut them. There's nothing critical about that coil. That coil is 2 inches in diameter, 10 turns per inch, but if you had a coil of a different size, it doesn't matter. You need some inductance. So the coil you have, you'll tap it in different spots. There's a little piece of wire there where I clip it to show you.
So you could just use a Buddy Pole coil?
Yeah, absolutely. A coil's a coil. Yeah, Buddy Pole's fine. They're great stuff, great quality. More expensive. This is like $40, where Buddy Pole would be $300. So on here, I've got this little clip here, little alligator clip, and you can't see it, but I can. On the coil here, I have marks on here. I use my wife's nail polish, and I have 2 marks for 20 meters, 3 marks for 30 meters, 4 marks for 40 meters, and so on. And so I just clip this on at the right spot. Now where you go, that'll get me in the ballpark, because every time you go to a new location, the environment is different. The ground is different, the atmosphere is different. It's going to change slightly. So I might have to move this slightly, but that'll get you in the ballpark. But it's pretty easy to do. And then on the inside cover of my plastic case, I got little cheat sheets that tell me where to clip it to, just in case I forget. I don't have every single band marked on that.
How does it hold up with the wind?
Wind. I'll show you a picture in a minute. First of all, if it's really windy, I'm not going to be out there. But it lasts in the wind. I'm going to show you a picture when I was at Rocky Mountain National Park, where the winds were fierce. I knew it was going to break, and I didn't. And I don't understand why. But I thought at least the telescoping parts, well, they're not going to slide back, but they did. I can't figure it out, but it works. So it's wonderful. The radials, there are 6. I usually use 6 of them or 8 of them, depending on what I want to do. And they're like 12 feet each. Nothing's critical. There's absolutely nothing critical about the antenna. Some RF radiated is better than no RF radiated. So this is a compromise for me for simplicity and weight and ease of erecting and tearing down. All right, so there it is. You don't have to see that again, but I already showed it to you in real life. The piece on the left is this stake here. This is just a threaded rod there I got from Home Depot. Home Depot is the closest store to my house. And that gets put in the ground, and then this thing sits right on it, slides right on it. It doesn't attach real hard, it just slides on it. Doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be perfectly vertical. It could be leaning this way or that way. It doesn't matter. Like I said, nothing critical about it at all. All right, so there it is at the flowers and fossil beds. I put a stake in the ground. And there it is at the flowers and fossil beds too, right by the picnic table. And there's my car in the background there. You can see there's a long walk from the car to the picnic table. So if walking is not your thing, here's again a perfect example of getting out and enjoying the outdoors. There's the flowers and fossil beds right before New Year's. Stuck it in the snowbank. That it is just stuck in the snowbank. Remember, I'm not there for days or weeks or months. I'm there for hours. So it doesn't have to be a permanent installation. If it would start to lean over, I get out of my car and stick it in a different spot. It's that easy. And the radials are just laying on the snow. All right, Rocky Mountain National Park. I went up there in, I think it was late October, and they closed the road to the summit, the Trail Ridge Road. But there's a gate there at 10,700 feet, almost 11,000. And my wife was with me. We spotted this little parking area right by the gate. We couldn't go any further. And there's this dirt area, this little rectangular dirt area. Maybe they have some plants there, I don't know, in the summertime. But I stuck it in there, and the wind there was blowing probably 30 to 40 miles an hour at one point, and that antenna was almost horizontal this way to horizontal that way. It was going like this, and that's when I thought it was going to break. I should have taken a video. That's not nearly as far over as it was doing it. I took this picture after I was operating when the winds calmed down. The other extremely interesting thing to me is I was on sideband mostly, and as this thing is whipping back and forth, it didn't seem to matter to the signal. I'm hearing the same volume signals from everybody, and they're not complaining that I'm disappearing either. I thought maybe something would change. The impedance could change as it's moving further and closer to the ground and further away. It didn't seem to matter, which I haven't figured out yet. That was quite an event.
Could that coil be at the bottom of the pole? Does it have to be, I mean, I see you're connecting the two antennas together, but
Yeah, when you're building verticals, you could have it base loaded, center loaded, top loaded. This is a compromise.
compromise because you get a better antenna with it mid-range like that, or?
It changes the antenna currents depending on where the coil is. I'm not an expert on all that, I forget all the details, but this is a good compromise. Coil, there are some on the market. You can buy these, by the way, similar things. There's some where the coil's at the base and then you have like a 16-foot pole coming up from the base. I'm not sure how much of a difference it makes. I've never tried it. So, when I went to Jewel Cave in South Dakota, my wife and I were on vacation, and I was also bringing my riggers during the national parks on the year, so trying to visit all the national parks. We would tour the parks and do all this stuff, and then when we finished that, I'd get on here and operate. So I always check in with the rangers, let them know that we're there and what I'm doing. And I said, I'm just going to put this little stake in the ground there. And they said, oh, no, you're not. Not in our ground. And beyond that, they said, and you can only operate from over there. So we found this picnic table. The picnic table had these boards at top and slots there, and my little stake just fit right between the boards there. And I put a little piece of rope at the bottom just so it wouldn't fall over. And the radials they're still in the box there, you can see the yellow there. But the radials kind of just dripped off from there. And I made a couple of hundred contacts with that.
Out of curiosity, why didn't they want you to put in the stake in the ground? Is there?
Well, there's caves down there, and they're protective of their grounds. Depending on the parks, I mean, some parks, they won't even allow you to put a wire in a tree. They said I can talk to the superintendent in Washington, D.C. if I wanted to. I said, that won't be necessary. I'll find a way to do this. I went out to Bensold Fort.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Buddy Poll has a very good manual online, and there's all kinds of good information on exactly what you're doing there.
Yeah, Buddy Poll has taken this and made it, they have really good quality products. And if you want to get that stuff, it's nice, comes in a nice traveling case, works well.
Just the manual itself is just is a wealth of information.
Yeah, and the Buddy Poll also published the specs so you can build it yourself if you want. All right, so Bensold Fort out in La Junta, I went out there because that's actually two National Park Service sites. It's Bensold Fort and it's on the Santa Fe Trail. Those are two separate entities for this purpose. I was very popular out there because I was giving out 2 designations instead of 1. It's called a twofer. Right, so I found in the end of the parking area, there's my vertical there, post. And remember, I'm only there for like maybe 4 hours, 5 hours. That's how I stuck it on the post. It's simply stuck in a crevice right there. There's nothing else holding it up. It's just the friction, the pressure there. And the radials are dripping down here. I call them dripping down, but they're hanging down. These black things on the yellow radials there, that's just Velcro. The Velcro is glued to the wire. Because when I'm out there, if you have separate pieces, like the Velcro comes off, you put it in your pocket, later on you can take it out of your pocket and put it on there, it won't be in your pocket anymore. You're going to lose it. I try to make sure everything is pre-attached so you can't possibly lose things. I have dropped things from here to there and it's disappeared into the earth. Sucked right in. So I try to have everything tethered somehow. I have many hundreds of QSOs out in Bensold Fort. So just another option of how you can put up your antenna. At Mount Rushmore, one of my best outings ever, my goodness. They said you can operate, the rangers said you can operate from the upper level parking area. And so we did that. And the upper level parking area has this wall concrete wall all the way around the whole thing. So where am I gonna put my antenna? And my wife spotted this one wall here that was basically like a planter wall. It was facing west. And on the other side of the wall, it went down a couple of stories down to the Mother Earth down there. So I just stuck it in here and laid some radials along the dirt and a couple hanging down, just over this wall and hanging down the other side. And you can see my car was parked right next to it. And this is my setup on Mount Herman, right over here, is just a fallen log. I always have Velcro with me, big pieces of Velcro, and comes in handy all the time. So it's just simply Velcro to this somewhat vertical looking piece of a branch. This whole thing is one thing here. Because remember, I'm only up there for a couple of hours. It doesn't have to be too permanent. That worked very well. That's the view from up there, Mount Herman. That's Dan KF0UR there. You can see the wind's blowing a little bit. Here's the vertical here. And there's a rock there. That's our operating desk. You can see the equipment there. There's a keyboard and a KX3 and probably one of my products there. This is an Iron Mountain in Manitou Springs, overlooking Colorado Springs, stuck in the ground. This is on Mount Blodgett near my house. This was taken just this past July for the Flight of the Bumblebee contest. And I'm gonna go a little faster. Okay, another alternative, a magnetic loop. That's what it looks like put together. This is what it looks like not put together. Comes in a nice little traveling case. Magnetic loops can't work, but they do. And we can talk about that some more. That one is 20 watts maximum, very lightweight, easy to do transport, works amazingly well, but it's a very high Q, very narrow bandwidth. If you change frequency too much, you have to retune it. There it is in use at my mother-in-law's in New York City, hanging out of a window horizontally. Now you can see we're up a couple of stories, which is, well, that will help. But if you look at this picture, there's the loop there. These little white streaks you see here, that's snow. But you can see it's not at the top of the building and it's in this corner. But yet I was working Europe on 5 watts with that. So magnetic loops are a serious consideration. And there it is up on Mount Blodgett with Dan. It was a cold morning. But here it is mounted vertically. There it is right there. And this is a yellow 11-foot painter's pole from Home Depot, one of those telescoping things. Also for changing light bulbs.
Is that as efficient as your vertical or more or less efficient? On those lower power?
The 1 or 2 times I tried to measure it, it was about the same. There's nothing scientific. It's just switching antennas. Do I hear people as loud? Do they hear me as loud? And it wasn't any major difference, which was pretty interesting. Another possibility is an end-fed zip. This is my version. This is something I bought from Power Electronics, LNR. But basically, this part here goes to your rig. The other end goes up in the tree. It's just one wire that ends in your tree. And I have a little tennis ball on here with a bunch of ropes. I can throw the ball up into a tree and pull the wire up. But you need a tree, and better than that, you need a good arm. And not have the wire or the string or the ball get tied up in the branches and all that. So it's not my favorite. I used it a couple of times, and I always go back to the vertical because I always have ground. All right. So there's my typical setup again. I did 2,500 QSOs and fluorescents in 21 days. In the car, my Prius on the right side there, very, very comfy. That's at Mount Rushmore. That's the first time I operated the car because I had no picnic table or anything else and no shelter. And it was a little drizzly that day. Up on Iron Mountain, this stuff is just put on a rock right there. That's in Manitou Springs. And a colder day out there on a mountain somewhere. This is last July, Flight of the Bumblebee contest up in Mount Blodgett. You see the antenna right there, and then everything else here. All right, Spruce Mountain. And you know what? I missed somewhere some slides about the power. All right, so I don't know what happened to them, but there are a couple of other things. The power plant. I started with, I don't know where they went.
It went, you
Fast
hit a
forward
button by
to one
accident when your
Yeah.
back was turned and it went.
I didn't see them. Oh, there they are. I don't know how I got past that. All right. It really zipped past it. Okay, there's a Moxon there. It's made a 6-meter Moxon. That's it, put up a Moxon is a 2-element beam basically. But what I want to show you, that this is how it transports. This is that antenna up there, right there. Very, very, very portable. And from power, you have a lot of choices in batteries. I started with sealed lead acid battery, and it's a little heavier, and as soon as you start using it, the voltage starts going down. Then somebody suggested lithium iron phosphate. I got this from a hobby shop, but it came with all kinds of warnings about don't ever take your eyes off of it when you're charging it. Charge it in a fireproof box. Don't charge it in your house. And, oh boy, this made me feel good. And then I learned about lithium iron phosphate from W0TLM. This is one version of it. This is a 3-amp version. This will be good for about 5 hours at QRP level. I use a 6-amp version on field day at 5 watts, and it's good for almost 12 hours. 12 hours. So, and it's very lightweight. Power density is very good. So a lot of power and a little space for very little current, very little weight rather. But it stays at 13 volts the entire time until it then will avalanche and come down. When you charge it, it manages itself. There's a battery charger controller built right in. So it's very, very nice. So this is what I use for hiking. I use a bigger one from driving someplace and I want more operating hours. So that's what I use right there. Balance charge is built in, which is a really big deal. You can charge it by plugging it in, or out in the field, you can charge it with a solar panel, which I have a version here. This is a 10-watt power from solar. Just about done. 10 watts. We got the sun. This will generate up to 600 milliamps, and that will keep things. If you plan to be out there for a long time, that's a really nice thing to have.
Who makes that?
That's Power Film Solar.
Power
Power
Film?
Film, one word, Power Film. And the prices of those really came down recently. And they make bigger ones too. I've run into a lot of people that have the 30-watt version, bigger. But that's only like a pound or less than a pound. So if you're hiking, it matters.
What is the name again?
Power Film. It's one word, Power Film Solar. I'm going to have all of this stuff. I'm going to leave it out, and I'm going to leave it out until after lunch, so you have a chance to play with it after the sessions. And the last thing I want to mention, this battery will shut itself off when the battery voltage gets too low. It protects itself. It needs to do that. It doesn't tell you. Now you can keep track of the time, but better than that, I use something called the What's Up meter, made for hobbyists, made for RC airplanes, helicopters, and the like. But this, one of the measurements on it is the cumulative amp hours. So if I know that that battery is there, it's good for like 2.75 amp hours. When this thing starts to read 2.5, I know I need to change batteries. So it's good to do between QSOs rather than have everything shut down while you're in a QSO. So, and again, very lightweight, very easy to manage. All right, and then I'm going to jump past these because, in conclusion, get out. We are blessed to be in this area where there's so many places to go and see. I've talked to hands in other places like Albuquerque. I was talking to guys that they said, we don't go out in the summertime, it's too hot. They have the sandy mountains down there, but here, there's certainly tons of places to go and see. So, thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Obviously, the most intrigue is with, say, 5 watts and CW up on a peak. But what's the reality with that rig in the antennas you showed, say, flatland in a park on the Front Range with 10 watts and single sideband voice?
No difference. I mean, not all of those QSOs were up on a peak. When I was in the Badlands, I wasn't on peak. It was just kind of a flat area. Mount Rushmore was the same thing. It's just, you're in the plains there. I've operated from Florissant fossil beds. You're not on the peak there at all. So it doesn't matter.
But voice versus CW?
Well, CW is going to have a better effective radiated power. So it depends on the bands. But I've done more QSOs and voice than CW. I kind of like talking to people when I'm out there and bragging about where I am and what I'm doing. Today, the atmospheric conditions are not as good. We don't have any sunspots, or very few. So CW might be a little bit better, but I really enjoy voice. Voice is my mode of choice when I'm out there, just because it's fun to talk to people and compare notes.
What's your go-to band?
I'm sorry?
What's your go-to band?
Go-to band these days is 20 meters, mostly. But I've been on everything from 6 through 40 meters when I'm out there. And with that rig, you can, if one band is not so good, you can try another one. With lots of bands.
With your product, does that enable you, I don't do CW, but I'd like to
Right.
try, so you can input it through your keyboard, and
Yes.
then it does the conversion and then sends it?
Right, you can type, whatever you type. What you do is, this rig can go into CW, PSK, or RIG. So when you type on the keyboard, I'm pointing over there like there's a keyboard there,
Yeah.
but there isn't, we know that. So when you type on the keyboard, it'll send whatever mode you're sending out. So this is in CW, it's going out in CW. If you change the mode here to RIDI, it'll go out in RIDI.
Okay.
And this will also decode CW and RIDI and PSK. So one of the uses of our product, not to brag too much or do sales, but one of the unintended things is people buy our stuff to help learn CW.
Yeah.
So they'll copy the CW in their head, but they'll look up at the screen to kind of confirm that they're copying right. And we got time for one more question, or no more questions. Okay.
Okay, this is a little different. I know you said you're more like 10 meters than that, but in 6 meters, I'm just getting into ham, just like that. I've heard of meteor scatter. Have you tried meteor scatter with
Yes,
this?
I've tried meteor scatter on 6 meters, where you're bouncing signals off the ionized meteor trails, and usually in the morning, using MSK 441, used to be FSK 441. And that was kind of interesting. I got bored with it, to tell you the truth, because it's the same people every morning. But I was talking about 1,000 miles away, bouncing signals off of an ionized trail of meteor in our atmosphere, which is, just thinking about that was really, really cool.
Yeah, it's caught my attention because it's like,
Yeah, it wasn't hard to set up, and the other thing I'll mention later, well, I'm kind of out of time, but thanks very much for your time.